Okay, so I want to show you a type of problem you're going to see sometimes on the SAT that looks like you would use a different strategy to solve it. Okay, you get these ones a lot. They could be pretty confusing, but once you know how to work them, they're actually great. Okay, so these problems where you get an if equation, what is something else, and you're going to get an expression. So you want to think about what the difference between an equation and expression. I kind of merged those two words together. I'm going to call these questions like an expression. Okay, so we have an equation and an expression. So why is that second thing not an equation? Well, it doesn't have an equal sign. So I really want you to get into the habit of thinking, what do these words mean? You know, there's an equation, it has an equal sign. A binomial, two numbers, stuff like that. Always be thinking, what do these words mean? Okay, so our first one's an equation and the second one is an expression. Okay, and we have the word if here. Okay, so if this is true, then what, right? So that means whatever is true for the first one will then be true for the second one. This is a weird sort of head energy. It's a little bit different than you normally think of algebra. Okay, so just get through it, practice these, and you'll start to get the hang of it. Now, the first equation is just a linear equation. We know things are linear when the variables are just taken to the first power. And of course, we don't usually write ones. We just don't write it at all, right? Okay, so this is a linear equation. And remember back to pre-algebra when you did X and Y and you would come up with values. All right, well, we can do that here. For example, if I said X was 5, Y, okay, so you're just going to do the algebra, right? 3 times 5 is 15 minus what would equal 12, right? So that's going to be 3, okay? And we could get all these different things. They would make a line if we were to put it on the XY coordinate graph, right? Right, okay. But let's be strategic about this, okay? We need only one pair to use in the second one, okay? And we want to be smart about this. We have exponents, right? How can I make those exponents easier to work with? Well, when you take anything to the 0 power, right, then it becomes 1. So if I could turn the numerator into 1 or the denominator into 1, that would make my job a lot easier, right? So I'm going to turn the numerator into 1 because I'm looking at the answers and I don't think the answer is C. Okay, that just doesn't quite, maybe it is, but I don't think the answer is C. So I want to work with either 2 or 4 as my base. Okay, so another tip, always look at the answers. All right. So let's go ahead and turn the numerator into 1. So we're going to use X is 0 for that. Okay, right? Anything to the 0 power is 1. So then we're going to take 0, we're going to stick it into the first linear equation. 3 times 0 minus y equals 12. So 0 minus y equals 12. Negative y equals 12. Divide both sides by -1. Y is equal to -12. Okay, so 0, -12. Okay, so now that we have these values, we're going to put them into this equation. So x to the 0 power over 2 to the -12th power. Well, x to the 0 power is 1 and 2 to the -12th power. We're just going to leave it like that. Why? Because I'll look at my answers. All right. Anytime you have something to the negative power, it's the same as if you took the reciprocal of it to the positive power. So like 2 to the -1 power is 1 over 2, right? So if you had it on the denominator, you would just stick it on the numerator. So this is equal to 2 to the 12th. Okay, do you see how that is so much easier than what you may have thought you needed to do, which was probably, most of my students think they've got a system of equations here. But because the second part was not an equation, we didn't have a system of equations, okay? Yes, we still used substitution, but we did it completely differently, completely different than we normally do it, okay? So when you've got these if equation, what is, or then, or whatever expression, I want you to look at the expression, and that's going to kind of like inform your strategy. And I'm going to be so much more faster and more accurate if I can get the hang of it. How do you say that? If I can get the hang of this, okay? Again, it's like this weird sort of head energy you're not used to in algebra, but the more practice tests you take, you're going to see 2 or 3 of these on every test, okay? All right, thanks for doing this with me. Let's see.